we are breaking spiritual laws in Nigeria. There are a lot of things that we are doing as adults and as parents that are going to come around and be visited on our kids and even to us. We are breaking spiritual laws in Nigeria. The parents, the adults in Nigerian society are acting extremely irresponsibly in many areas of their lives. They are stealing, they are cheating, they are killing. They are doing a lot of terrible things to one another, and in many cases they are also teaching their children and other young ones how to do these bad things. It is coming across as being something that's becoming more or less a way of life. It's almost impossible to see Nigerian adults that are not engaging in bribery, in corruption, in all kinds of terrible things against one another. Even when they are in religious establishments, they are doing it. Now, the signs of the fact that the consequences are being visited on us can sometimes be seen in the way a series of incidents that are negative, that are tragic, happen in any society. I want to just kind of paint a picture. Within the last, I would say, about 2 to 3 weeks, we've had the case, very viral story about this young guy called Sylvester. I don't know how to pronounce his surname, who in a school that he was attending a boarding school, got beaten up and then given something to drink and ended up dying. And we have the school and parents and all that all trying to cover up the whole thing, and they try to even push it under the carpet. Now there's a string of process, and some people have raised they've signing some document and asking for the thing to be prosecuted to the last extent. That was there. We were trying to get over it. Then came the news that 8 children were left in a car unattended, or in a, I don't know, kind of a space bus or something, and all 8 died in it around Badagry. That's my understanding. I think I read a bit of the story, and I saw another photograph, I think yesterday, in which those kids were laid on the floor and wrapped in white cloth, and they were to be buried. 8 kids in one vehicle left to die, and they died. Then today I was right on the school grounds when the news came that some of the students from the secondary arm of the school that my children attend had been crushed by a trailer that was going along, coming down from the road safety office along Gojodubega Road. I thought it was a joke until the principal, the school councillor, the vice principal, and all of them trooped back from the roadside and were describing the gory scene of arms and legs and body parts, heads crushed, of little children. These are young children that just finished the exams for today, and they have been crushed by an oncoming trailer, supposedly being pursued by road safety officers. In fact, according to the accounts, because I refuse to go and see such things with my eyes, I just can't take it anymore. But the school counselor explained to us that she was told that the vehicle was being pursued by the road safety officers. So by the time the accident happened, they stopped and began to use their truck or whatever to pick up the bodies of these kids, some of whom were still alive. There was a young boy, one of the students, who was describing one of the girls that was injured, saying she was half alive, half dead. Some body parts like legs were crushed beyond recognition. Just parents were rushing to the school to look for their kids. Some were giving signs of relief, thanking God that their child was not one of the children. Some were there jumping up and down, saying they did not know where their children were. It was a crazy scene. Then suddenly we had this crowd of young men. Supposedly some of them were students from the senior school that the students had been injured in, and they came and just blocked the road and took over the roads, were attacking people, attacking vehicles, attacking buses, breaking windows, saying because their classmates had been, or schoolmates had been killed and injured, they were kind of, this was like reprisal attacks. And then they just created chaos. All the Marwa people stopped riding, Okada people stopped riding. The roads just became deserted, and just saw a sea of heads. People were just moving, and then people were running and stopping. It went on for over 2 hours before I could walk my children home to their mother. It took me over 2 hours. I had to stay with my girls to make sure I actually walked them home because there was no means of transportation. Then, as I was coming back home myself, I was exhausted. I needed to buy some provisions. I stopped over at my friend's place. He is a vendor who sells, he's a distributor of bread. As I was talking to, I didn't even see him initially. It was the wife I was talking to. Then later on, I ran into him, and he was holding his head and telling me something had happened at their own end at Isheri. So here I am coming from grammar school thinking I had a story to tell, and he was telling me about even smaller children who got hit by some vehicle, and according to him, it seems they died. These are much smaller children than the ones in secondary school, all in the same day. You see, I tell people this all the time, that our society, we do not understand that these things we do have consequences. There are spiritual laws that govern the universe, and when we continually recklessly break those laws, there are consequences that will be visited on us as a people, as a collective. And when those consequences come, even those of us that are innocent will just be experiencing the pain along with those who are guilty of it. I believe that is one of the things that we're experiencing now. Okay, and I think it's a warning and a wake-up call to us as a people. It's time for us to change our ways. It's time for us to mend our characters. We've gone too far already. There's so much, if there's a word like that, badness going on in Nigeria. There's a lot of backstabbing, a lot of evil doing in Nigeria. Even in one residential estate, people are doing evil to one another. Even in one compound, people are doing evil. In the same church, people are doing evil to one another. And they think they can just continue without any consequence. We are spiritual beings, and the universe in which we operate is governed by spiritual laws. Break them at your own peril. And those are the reasons why we are having the experience we are having today. I don't think they are accidental. I don't think it's just a case of this. If you look at the way these things are happening, again and again and again and again, they continue to reoccur. It's time for us to wake up, and it's time for us to look inwards and decide to make a change. Because if we don't, we may actually get to a point where we literally just eliminate ourselves.
I want to end by reading out a story. There's another reason why I think there's something wrong with us as a people. And you see, when I talk about spirituality, it has nothing at all to do with religion. Those of you who know me know that I do not do religion. Spirituality is something that anybody can practice. You don't have to be religious to do it. If you look at the way we handle relationships today, there are many cases in which we have single mothers raising boys. It's very rare to see a single father. It's very often a single mother raising other boys or girls. And when a single mother is raising a boy, if you go and check, quite often you will find out that they will not generally be open to having a man, and any man, play the role of an influencer in the life of that child. So you would probably kind of try to find for him a competent and valid male role model to emulate. So they will want to be the ones to pass on the parenting to the child, to give parenting to the child, and many times they might struggle. This story I want to read is trending now, seemingly, because I think what is what people are doing. I've noticed it a lot. People don't talk about things that went wrong in an environment they were in when it happened. Sometimes 2, 3, 4 years before it happened, or even a month before it happened. They don't bother to go public, to come on social media to talk about it. But the minute they find that there's some other story that has happened in the same place, then they feel it's the time to bring up their own experience, which they never bother to bring to the attention of the general public, and they want to ride the wave, as it were, of popularity of that incident. Maybe they saw it kind of portrayed in the news or whatever, that's when they bring up their own and start saying, yeah, it happened to me, I know the person, I was there, I have a video. But they never bothered to bring it up before it became a trending topic. Okay, I think it's actually self-serving many times. Many of these who are not, it's not like they want to add value or help people that are involved. They just want to also ride the wave and gain some popularity and get people to ask them, oh, you know, you are part of it, I saw your name, I saw. That's what, and they take the pains to mention sometimes even what they do, like businesses they run and things like that. I mean, I remember somebody who had that I was going to be interviewed by some journalists concerning my experience with domestic violence, and the person, when they heard about one of the companies that was going to interview me, and the person was telling me I was going to be famous. And look at that. How do you get famous for being interviewed as a victim of domestic violence? Does that make any sense? And that was when I really realized that some people are sick in the head. And I mean it with every sense of responsibility. I do not wish to disrespect anybody, but that is the truth. For you to think that getting interviewed as a victim of domestic violence is something you can get famous for. Why would you want to be famous for that kind of madness? It's not something that any sane person wants to even be associated with. The only reason I even accepted to be interviewed by all these journalists is because I realized that men need to know that there's an alternative to violence, and they need to know also that they must never keep quiet, even though they're not going to be violent as well. They cannot keep quiet. You cannot afford to, because of your kids, because of your sons, because of your daughters. Anyway, but that's by the way. Let me go back to the story. My personal this is the title. I don't want to mention the name of the person on whose wall I read it. I just want to read it out to you because I think it's just symptomatic of the violent tendencies we see in our youth today. Because the adults themselves are setting the example and making it clear that when you want to resolve conflict, violence is the option if you don't get what you want. And they think they're actually making a valid point. They can't realize how they're exposing themselves as bad parents. So I want to read this. I'm not bothered to mention the name. I'll just read the story. My own personal experience with Mrs. blah blah blah, principal of Darwin College. We all know the name. My name is blah blah blah. I'm not going to mention the name. And I had two boys in. She mentioned the school. Now it's not the Darwin College now. It's another school in Lekki, phase 1, where Mrs. whatever, you know the name of the principal, Laiwala, was a former school principal. A student in a senior class bullied my first son in that school so bad, to the point of damaging the screen of my son's tablet. Mrs. Laiwala felt she could plead and offer an apology on his behalf without giving me the opportunity to meet with the said boy and ask from him directly the reason he always bullies my son. Let me use the English she wrote. She pleaded they were only kids and would settle it amongst themselves later. I made her to understand we are talking about my son coming home with a broken ankle because the said bully, the same boy, kicked so hard on his abdomen for coming to the football pitch when he was playing football with his friends. My son fell on his knees and went ahead to step on his ankle. To further torture my son, he grabbed his Samsung tablet and damaged the screen. Trust me, I refused to have that and demanded to see the boy and his parents who raised the bully, but she refused. And after days of going to the school with her preventing me from meeting the boy and his parents, I drove to the school around 6 a.m. on Monday morning and waited for the boy and his parents at the gate. I want to stop here and make a comment. First of all, notice that the child has a Samsung tablet. Those of you listening to me, how many of you have kids who have Samsung tablet? I hope there are many of you, so I guess this is normal. Second thing, notice that this woman says she came to the school at 6 a.m. on Monday morning and waited for the boy and his parents. She did not tell us how she got to know the identity of the boy and the parents, so apparently she found a way to have them pointed out for her. Please take note of those two things. The moment they came to drop him, I grabbed his school bag, seized it. The mother came out shouting, what's going on here? I landed a hot, dirty slap on her. I was going to use my head next on her forehead before the security man and people around grabbed me. Let me stop and make another comment. Notice, immediately, she did not try to have a conversation. She instantly went on the attack. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm not saying it's right, I'm going to comment at the end. I'm just saying, notice, she didn't say, I asked a question, did he answer me, and all of that. She simply went in the attack. And she said she was going to use her head next. Meaning, you can see the kind of person this is. This is a person that believes in resolving issues by going violently confrontational. Alright, so let me go on. I drove off with the boy's school bag, ignored all their calls for that day, and returned it to the school principal the next morning, making sure that I damaged his laptop screen beyond control. I took time to explain to my sons not to feel embarrassed that everything I did that day was for their own good and security. Please note, she left with the bag, ignored their phone calls, but the kids that she was trying to protect were still in the same school where she had done all that. Alright? Then she comes home, she tells the children, don't worry, don't get embarrassed. What I'm doing is for your good and your security. But she left them in the school. She didn't provide some private bodyguards for the children. So if the others were to be belong to a cult and all of that, one wonders just how far this could have gone. So she thought she was in control. She really thought she was in control because she took the bag and left, and she had made a statement. But imagine, given the kind of children we have in these schools, imagine if that place had some who were members of a cult, the ones that are so hardened. Imagine what reprisal attack may have occurred against those children while she was busy preening herself and feeling good about herself at home, having taken the bag. You understand? Okay, then just to round up, my boy spent extra 2 years in GIC Lekki phase 1 school, and till they left that school, no teacher or student bullied them. Mrs. Laiwala left that school for Dowen College months later after this incident. This morning when my second son hugged me from behind with a kiss, reminding me of this story, I smiled. Getting to know now that she's the current principal of Dowen College, where Sylvester, 12, blah, 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 blah. I'm not surprised. May God heal his parents and his family. Justice for... Let me tell you the truth. And I know some people will hate me for this. It doesn't really matter to me. But I don't think this lady is writing this story because she wants to share with people, to help people, or to educate, inform, enlighten people. I think this lady is just trying to score some popularity points. Okay, that's all. And I think this is a very bad example of parenting. Or this is a very good example of bad parenting. And I've highlighted the point, but I want to say this. For you to think that your son coming to hug you with a kiss, reminding you of the violent act you performed in order to defend them, when you did not pursue all possible non-violent alternatives, for you to think that you have actually functioned as a competent parent, is the greatest form of self-delusion anyone can inflict on themselves. Look, we have a society today where people believe that if they have not punched you, they have not shown that they are strong, and if they fail to punch you and let people say that they punched you to get back at you for whatever you've done, that means they are weak and they've lost. So everybody is trying to prove, I'm stronger, you cannot cheat me, and the only way to do that is they must fight you, they must beat you, they must punch you. If they can't punch you, they send somebody to punch you. If they can't do that, they get someone to pour something on you. It's always people thinking that they need to act in a violent manner towards another in order to prove, to get their rights respected. There's something called assault. A person may have been known to commit a crime, or be suspected to have committed a crime. There may be a lot of evidence pointing, but until it is proven, that person is considered innocent until proven guilty. And if you launch any physical attack on that person, you'll be guilty of assault. Now, if we have a society in which people instantly feel that the only way to get themselves heard is to launch violent physical attacks on the other person, regardless of whether the person is guilty or not, we feel that that's the only way to seek recourse, then society is going to descend into chaos. That's where they're lost. Having said that, admittedly, the lady who was in charge was unwilling to let you get access to these people and get them to tell you why they did what they did to your son. But there were still alternatives you could have pursued. There are still ways. For instance, she could have as well just prevented them entering into the school and insisted there and then to have a conversation with the mother. And if they refuse, then she will go further and go and lodge a complaint with the police. If you have enough money to buy a Samsung tablet for a child, you have enough money to pay a lawyer to raise issues with the school on behalf of your child and teach your child how to go about what you call violence-free resolution of issues. All of this descent into, look, what if the mother was the wife of an area father and was even like 10 levels above you in terms of ability to inflict injury and violence? What if she had her own thugs and she sent them after you and came to your house and they dealt with you and they could not trace them to her, how would you cope? I mean, you are just assuming that you had the ability to be more violent than them. What if they were even much more well versed in violence than you? So you got away with it because you dealt with somebody that was not able to reciprocate. What if these people were just more violent than you and they were just as callous and not willing to think of consequences than even you were? Then the whole thing would have been a disaster of sorts. I think we have people who are not competent to be parents, functioning as parents, and I think we have people who are sharing this story just as irresponsible as the person who wrote the story. We are trying to talk about the fact that people are being violent, children are being violent, and people are sharing stories in which a parent used violence to resolve, to do what she thought was a resolution of a problem for her child. So what has he taught her child? I will be scared to move around those kids because they've been taught that the only way to resolve a problem, if they find there's a delay in getting what they think is their rightful apology, is for them to go violent and inflict violence on somebody else, and that's the way to teach a person lesson. What if you meet somebody that is capable of greater violence than you? What happens then? What happens then? I think this is the root cause. This is the root cause of what we're seeing today. And I said it before, I'm going to say it again. We are spiritual beings, and we as adults, we are behaving in spiritually inappropriate ways that are causing great damage to our young ones in Nigerian society today. You see, the concentration of bad behavior in the Nigerian spiritual space is just too great for something negative not to come out of it. And that's why we're having all these tragedies we're having. All this, it's not a mistake. We're not the only country on the planet. And believe me, we have no reason to be like this. But sadly, even now, when we should be learning lessons, people are just trying to ride the wave of popularity of a trending topic, right? And so they are exposing themselves for the bad adults that they are, the bad role models they are, and they think they're actually communicating sense. The guys even sharing the stories can't even write sentences correctly, and they're supposed to be adults. It's crazy, man. Well, I hope this is useful for somebody. You cannot set this kind of example for a child and tell us you're a parent. You're not. I would never let my child be around you. You are an incompetent adult and definitely not someone that's qualified to be called a parent, because you do not know how to teach a child what's called conflict resolution. You can confront a person without being combative. You do not have to settle for violence to resolve it, especially when it has to do with your kids. You can show your kids how to exercise restraint and still get justice. Yes, even in this place called Nigeria. I'm living proof. I've done it. And I was told, people were telling me I would have broken her mouth, I would have poured acid on her. All those things they said. They told me I was a fool. They told me I was not a man. But today, at least, the results I've gotten, my kids understand. They see it. I've spoken with my daughters. They witnessed when journalists came to meet with me. And they know that this is the reason why these guys are coming at home to speak with our father. They've seen that I was right. They understand that it is something they must not do. I have successfully delivered a valuable lesson, and I didn't have to settle for violence to do it. That is the way to be a parent, not the way these people are going about it. It's such a shame.